Chapter 1 Rose's Burden. The afternoon sun, weak even at midday, struggled to pierce the thick leaded window of the laughable Hornet Inn. Inside the small, overly ornate room in the city of Kirkwald, Rose, the infamous guardian of the people, suffered a familiar and wholly undesired fame. Decades had passed since the establishment of the Sanctuary of Thorns, and in the intervening years, Rose's name had metastasized from a simple identifier into a religious phenomenon. In Mana, she was a fierce protector, a symbol of order whose very whispers elicited a blend of fame and fear amongst the powerful Irimi faction. But in the hallowed stone of Kirkwald, she was a deity. The newly established Sanctum of the Rose, a venture she detested, had literally enshrined her visage, attracting a flock of worshippers, much to the chagrin of her dubious father figure. The attention was incessant. Men wanted to shake her hands, wives sought blessings for their newborns, and nobles arrived with tedious, self-serving propositions. It was suffocating. To escape the worst of the reverence, Rose and her companion had temporarily relocated to this obscure tavern just to celebrate her birthday. It did no good, however, as a timid knock appeared on the door. "Hi," a muffled voice squeaked from the hallway. "Is this Rose's room?" A soft groan escapes Rose's throat, and another disturbance. The apparently elegant Rose sits legs splayed, arms thrown wide atop the chair that she sits in, head slumped back lifeless. She turns her head barely enough so that her eyes can find Hugh's as she says quietly, "Do you want to get this one? Or is it still fun for you to watch me suffer?" She asks this entirely in jest, full well knowing the answer. The dubiously appointed father figure flips Rose off as he tosses a length of rope towards the ceiling, opening up an extra-dimensional space. "Are you having a laugh?" Hughes grumbled, rolling his eyes. "That's twice I've been woken up now." Hughes shimmies up the rope, notably not offering Rose an invite into his sanctuary. "Come wake me up after you learn how to ignore a bitch," he responds. "Thanks, Father of the Holy One," she says with a hint of venom in her response. There's about 2 seconds where Rose contemplated the aforementioned ignoring of a bitch before her people-pleaser personality takes over. Walking over to the door, dusting her blue garments and fixing her hair, Rose wears the practiced, gentle smile as she opens the door. "Yes? How can I help?" A question she shall surely regret asking. A young girl in an apron squeaks upon hearing her speak, as if she wasn't actually expecting a response, much less for the door to open. "Oh, Lady Rose, in the flesh. It's real good to meet you." She smooths down her apron and brushes stray hairs from her reddening face. My mom made me come here," the bashful girl mutters, stumbling on her words as her eyes bounce round, looking anywhere but Rose. "We run a bakery, and she wanted to know if these could get your official endorsement." The young baker presents a carefully wrapped cloth bag to Rose, smelling faintly of blossom honey and cinnamon. Baked goods. The gamble paid off as her previously tired eyes do light up a little. "Oh, I see," Rose trailed off, looking at the cloth bag. It was tactless, cold-calling her room to secure an endorsement, but she was entirely aware that using her name was an incredibly effective way to get on the map. "No doubt I'll thoroughly enjoy your products given my sweet tooth. I shall try them, and should I find them to my tastes, I shall personally visit your bakery, offer my praises, and purchase some more items." Hopefully, that response will be enough for now. Amidst the baker's embarrassed expression is a hint of relief as Rose offers these words. "Thank you very much." She bows twice in hurried speed, sending flour-dusted hair strands flying. "Our bakery is the Dulce Miel in Crescent Lane, the street close to the market square. We do hope you like them." She throws her head down and about once more before briskly shuffling away. The brazenness of soliciting orders chosen was not lost on her, and she didn't seem keen on sticking around, even at her mother's behest. "Cute kid," Rose mutters to herself. "Must have it tough with a mother like that, but who knows?" Rose closes the door, the practiced smile fading. face returning to the somewhat tired and relaxed expression any normal person would wear when not in a customer-facing environment. She walked towards the dangling rope, opening the sweet-smelling package, and noted 2 rose-shaped pastries inside. Taking one and putting her hand up into the extra-dimensional space, knowing full well that Hughes, encased in such a small space, wouldn't be able to resist for long. In an instant, the rose-shaped pastries snatched from her hands with a greedy hum of delight. That was all the thanks she would get. Then, Hugh's voice, muffled and triumphant, dropped from the ceiling. 3, 2, 1. A countdown for how quickly it's going to get eaten? A fair assumption, but who truly knows? Rose would take her pastry and wander over to a seat to get comfy. But as soon as the countdown was finished, there was another knock at the door. Her relaxed face cracks as a frown appears. How could he have possibly known? Now they're interrupting her pastry time? No, I'm going to eat this bun. Rose climbs up the rope with a rebellious and defiant attitude, almost as if to show Hughes that it can be done. The knocking becomes more insistent as she shimmies up the rope, joining the wayward man-child in his hidey hole. He's already begun digging into his treat, tail flicking about in delight as the crumbs get caught in his stubble. By the time she settles down in the extra-dimensional space, the knocking in the room has subsided. Took you long enough, he muffles, spitting out a sugared crumb. Didn't think you'd want to spend your 40th birthday meeting and greeting the riffraff. Rose sighs. We both know we wouldn't be where we are without the support of people in state. And as much as I do loathe the constant bombardment, it is hard to deny the positives we've enjoyed thanks to my status. Rose takes a bite of the bun. It's alright. Nothing spectacular. Also, I'm pretty sure I'm not 40 yet. I might be like 37, 38. Either way, eat my ass. Truly, such undignified things can only be said in the presence of like-minded company, who definitely didn't teach her any bad habits. That a dare? Hughes attempts an eyebrow waggle before scrunching up his nose in nausea. Nah, fuck that. I think I just puked a little. Hughes sticks out his tongue through a fanged grimace. Though the tiefling says nothing about the support of the people, nor of the positives, Rose would know from many conversations over the years how much he claims he could have done without it. Either way, 37 or 42, I'll glass myself if we have to stay here for one more second, he says, brushing the crumbs off of his shirt. Clearly, the receptionist doesn't know what hush money is. Let's stiff this joint and haul ass. Either that or she knows exactly what hush money is, but doesn't have the moral to stick to it. She sighs. It's always a gamble. I agree. As much as I never want to turn away the Girl Scouts, is it too much to ask for a place to stay that people won't tunnel into for a chance to get some kind of blessing from me? Where do you suggest we go? She asks. It's your birthday. Hughes shrugs. The planner of the 2 parents clearly was not present. We can bum it out here if you want, or go to Kilna. Hughes gives Rose a dirty smirk. I bet if you kissed Caradoc's Caracock, he might even bend over backwards to get you a portal to Grad. Rose scoffs. I'd much rather take it up the ass from some random on the street, perish the thought on both counts. She shakes her head, clearing the mental image. Though, your suggestion of Grad isn't a bad one. Surely there are some mages in Kirkwald who could teleport us there. It'll be much quieter too. Hughes props his head up on his hand with a lazy smile. All righto, whenever you're ready to face the gaggle of worshippers outside then. He says this like it's not all his problem to deal with. We can walk through the crowd and have people try to touch us, or I can piggyback fly you over the masses to a store nearby that sells high-level scrolls. We can just teleport ourselves. Hughes' smile widens into a childish grin. To save me the trouble of crawling like a 2-legged peasant, I'll take the piggyback. Give you some practice for when I reach that age. The grin cracks into a wheezy laugh before he doubles over in a coughing fit. Ugh, dry-ass pastry. You're not allowed to talk like that. You're never getting old. I won't allow it, Rose says in jest. Alright, let's go. I'm even going to fly out the window just to interact with as little people as possible. Hughes chuckles as they slide down the rope. But before they can defenestrate themselves, there's another knock at the door. Rose's already strained mental composure cracked, a flicker of near unbridled anger tightening her jaw as her head spun towards the interruption. But then she heard the familiar, earnest voice of Neff. "Lady, Rose, I heard that you would still be here at this time of the day." And like a metronome clicking back into place, Rose is smiling. She answers the door. "Ah, Neffany, how's it going? Please, come in. This hallway is busy." As the door opens, Rose is greeted by the paladin's customary bow. "Good afternoon, Rose, and Mr. Hughes," she says, eyeing him with a measured gaze. Though Hughes does not deign himself to respond with the same pleasantries as Neff makes her way into the room. A quick glance around, Neff takes note that the window is open. "I see that you are about to depart, so I will refrain from postponing you much longer." From her bag, Neff takes out a carefully folded envelope and offers it to Rose with both hands. The envelope is pearlescent and embossed with a fake gold filigree etchings. "Of course," Rose responds. "Your presence is more than welcome any time." Accepting the envelope, assuming it's from Neff, she doesn't wait until she leaves to open it. Encased within, the envelope contains a carefully penned letter with fancy print and floral block printing. It reads, "Neffany Ragnell and Rock Gunacht would like to..." It's a wedding invitation for next month. Rose looks at this, slightly broken inside. She can't help but imagine her in Rock's place, as she'd always had a soft spot for Neff. Though her face wears the practiced smile once more, squashing down that for later. "Oh, congratulations. I was wondering when you two were going to tie the knot. Of course, I'll attend." The paladin beams, unaware of Rose's tumultuous thoughts. "Full glad I am to hear that you will be attending. It would not be a ceremony without your presence." Hughes springs up. "You know, you do have a license to bang without shackling yourselves into a societal construct. Just kidding." Unlike Neff, Hughes is regarding Rose with a pitiful smirk, as if in full knowledge of her inner turmoil before turning back to the paladin. "Grat schmatch, tell the three-legged hulk I said hi, would you?" Groaning at this, Rose responds, "Damn it, Hughes. Marrying the person you love is romantic. Unfortunately, you wouldn't understand, given you can't marry your favourite sleeping spot." Though she does struggle not to laugh at the three-legged hulk comment, her focus returns to Neff. "Yes, please count me down as a will attend. I'm more than happy to be there, and will also help with any other preparations that might need some attention." Though Neff has had some time to get used to Hughes's abrasive comments, he still manages to elicit a frustrated blush from her as she does her best to ignore his ruder remarks. "I certainly will, my lady. We will both be glad for you and Mr. Hughes to attend." She clears her throat. "Until then, do not burden yourself with the thoughts of preparations or the errands of today. Miss Sally and I will hold the fort while you and Mr. Hughes are away." "My thanks," Rose responds. "We might be gone for a short while. I'll update you regardless. Congratulations once more. Celebrations are in order upon our return." She would pull Neff in for an excited hug, but still doesn't know if that's something that Neff would be comfortable with. "You honour both of us." The half-elf bows once more, smiling before she leaves. "Birthday blessings to you, my lady. I hope you have a good day." Hughes waits a few seconds for Neff to close the door behind her. "You could practically hear your heart plummet all the way back here, princess." Rose scoffs at this. "You know what I'm about. I won't let my own desires dim the happiness of others. Now, let's get out of here." Rose pockets the invite and squats down slightly for Hughes to be able to climb onto her back. At that time, Hughes gives Rose the flimsiest attempt at comforting her by patting her on the shoulders before putting his full weight onto her back, which isn't a lot. He's very light, perhaps a little too light. Rose takes flight out the window, not looking down, knowing full well someone will spot her and wave to her. Noting Hughes's weight being akin to paper, she can't help but comment, "You think with all the cakes you eat, it'd actually feel like there's a person on my back and not a small animal?" Hughes chuckles at this, but there's an underlying nervousness to it. "Maybe I'm just cutting back. The custard tarts in that downstairs bakery aren't what they used to be." Having lived with this red asshole for so long, Rose knows a lie when she hears one. She begins to fly upwards in a more passive, threatening manner. You've known me for nearly 30 years. What are you hiding? Hughes's eyes can nearly be heard rolling from behind Rose's shoulders. My word, a man can't have a few secrets every now and then. Should have gotten you a ladder for your birthday so you can get off my ass. Rose clicks her tongue at this. I mean, sure, you want to sneak out and have your way with tentacle beasts in the woodland. I won't pry, but you seem almost comically underweight. I'm just worried for you. Is that so wrong? Hughes laughs at this. Don't waste your time. I'm fine, he shrugs. And for all you know, it could make me more stealthy. Won't be tripping on any pressure plates. She shrugs at this. I'm getting you a steak and mash for my birthday meal, she says in defiance of his statement. But from here, Rose carries her literal lightweight father through the skies with ease. The air is brisk for mid-year, though warm for the Baltic Iceland that is Kirkwald. Behind Rose, Hughes does not so much as stir, save the swinging of legs and an occasional hum as he sees a bird flying at eye level. Below them, roof tiles and steaming chimneys. Even further below, cobbled streets and snow filled with faces, all staring at them. After a moment, they gently land on the steps of the Slate Scriptorium, a 2-story, half-timbered building amidst the busier streets of the shopping district. Upon entering, Rose quickly slams 5 gold pieces down on the countertop. 5 gold to skip all the small talk. Time is of the essence. I need a teleport scroll. Name your price. The dwarven lady manning the store is taken aback by Rose's haste, but without a word, quickly flips through her price book. Teleportation. It'll cost you 5,000 gold. Rose reaches into the bag of holding on her hip and pulls out 5 small bags, each containing 100 platinum, placing them upon the countertop. Sold, please and thank you. And while her words are hurried, her body language and facial expression are not. She's not trying to be hostile or demanding, just desperate. The dwarven woman weighs the heft of the bags to inspect the coins, slower than Rose would have liked. Pulling out the scroll and handing it over to Rose, a quick thanks for the patronage, just in time to hear a lady 2 shelves back whispering, Sweet Savras, is that her? Do you think I could ask her to fix my ingrown toenail? Groaning at this, Rose is getting tired of all the attention, as she turns dramatically to Hughes and storms out of the store, grabbing him by the wrist. Come, Hughes, we must make haste. I've got a god to kill or something. Rose exits the store, finding Hughes weighing less than her words, pulling on him with absolutely no resistance. At the back of the store, some prepubescent kids can be heard squealing in impressionable delight. Did you hear? She's about to kill a god. She's so wicked. Pulling her feather of a father to a back alley nearby, she opens the scroll and begins casting. Fucking abracadabra, let's go to a place where we can get you a fucking sandwich. Drawing the required runes for the teleport spell, Rose thinks of just outside Cartha City, where Rose and Hughes went on their first hunt that many years ago. It is close to civilization, but not close enough that people would be there. However, she looks around for a last second to ensure that no one is sneaking up for some last-second attention. Hughes, of course, notes the urgency in which Rose is writing down these runes with an amused whistle. Fucking sandwiches are actually overrated. But before Rose can respond, blue arcane light subsumes the both of them in a flash, mercifully yoinking both of them away from the burdens of stardom. And within an instant, they've arrived, the stones they stood on replaced with grass, temperate air filling their lungs. What once was a dingy alley now towers the outer walls of Cartha City. Now, with a moment to respond, Rose turns to Hughes. Knowing you, the sandwich was probably stale bread and sandpaper, only way you could get your rocks off. Couldn't just go with a nice roast beef like everyone else. But Rose stops, looking around and letting the silence hit her ears, the nature, the wind, the warmer air. Freedom. The tiefling stumbles slightly upon re-emerging on the other side of the world, though his proclivity for extreme sports gives him a little difficulty in keeping the contents of his stomach. You sound like a fucking normie. Conformity is complacency, girl. Closed-minded. Hughes taps on the side of his noggin before stroking his chin, as a wise scholar would his long white beard. He speaks as if he's reciting, The world would be a better place if we all just tried fucking a sandpaper witch just once. The disgust on Rose's face is evident after that statement. Sure, let me go hunt down the nearest cactus and I'll show you how wrong you are. Gods. Rose continues to look around, breathing in the fresher air. Well, we're here. What shall we do first? as she whips her head back around. Seriously, what's with your weight? Are you dying or something? Hughes laughs at her statement. Stupid. I just have indigestion. Bad taco night. You ever tried keeping weight on when you're shitting napalm? Thought not. Anyway, if you're that concerned, make me a sandwich. Rose scoffs at this. Sandpaper or roast beef like a normal person? Let's get going, you lunatic. I love you. Rose begins walking along the outer wall, deciding whether or not to visit the orphanage this year. She did just leave Kirkwold because she was tired of all the attention, and as much as going back is a nice reminder of her roots, most people know her there, and it'll just be another swarm. Hughes, of course, knows this, as there's a wistful humming behind Rose. Haven't been to Grad in a hot minute. Where to then? The old children's lost and found? There's an audible sigh from Rose. As much as I want to, it's just more people who want to talk to me and get me to do stuff. Part of me would like to just actually sit in a quiet room with a big birthday cake for the two of us to share, you know? As she's walking, she slows her pace a little bit, taking in the surroundings and enjoying the moment while she knows she won't be bothered. Sometimes, if you want peace, spending 5,000 gold to teleport half a world away is a small price to pay. Hughes responds curiously. Don't we have 20 rooms back in Torma? Or Kelna? Or Kirkwold? Yes, we do, Rose responds. But unfortunately, like all good things, people have spoiled that as well, and there are some fanatics who know where the sanctuary is, and it's hard to get comfortable knowing there's a collective outside waiting to scoop up my bathwater for its apparent healing properties. Again, I like the idea of a small room and a big birthday cake. Do you have your Cartha pass? She asks Hughes, who belts out in laughter at the idea of merchandised rose-scented bathwater before he pauses. A what pass now? Rose sighs again as she walks up to the gate. Whatever. It's only 10 gold, I think. Unless inflation hit really hard here. Who knows? She waits for a guard to notice and come over, preparing her entry pass as she does, while also watching for any reactions to see if they know who Rose is, so she can prepare another handful of hush money. As expected, the guard at the gate holds out his hand for her pass before a flicker of recognition can be sighted behind his visor. Welcome back, Miss Rose. He hands the pass back to her, before stumbling on some additional words. If I may, Madame, my daughter is a very big fan of yours. Even took up archery and got the braids to match. He doesn't seem like he has the habit of talking too much on duty. It would mean the world to her if she could get an autograph or some sorts, if that's not too much to ask, of course. Behind all of this is Hughes trying to suppress his snickering, and failing. The practiced smile returns to Rose's face. This isn't the first time she's heard this, and it won't be the last. Reaching into the bag aside, she pulls out a long bow that looks a little older, fit for the size of a teen, her name engraved on the side of the bow along with the etching of the flower of her name. She offers it over to the guard. This is the bow I used when I was younger. Give it to her, tell her to keep up the practice, and that I believe in her. What she doesn't say is that there's about 10 more of these in her bag specifically for this scenario, but she'll never tell. Seeing this sends Hughes into a laughing fit, but the guard doesn't seem deterred by the laughter as he stares at the bow and then back to Rose. Are you sure, Miss Rose? This would make her year and more. He takes the cheap bow and holds it like it's a sacred relic. 1,000 thanks, Madame. He doesn't even seem to question why Rose would have this on her or the validity of said bow. Rose responds to this. It is my pleasure, though if you don't mind, we are here on quiet business. Please keep word of our arrival to yourself, if at all possible. She smiles, placing a hand on his shoulder as she walks through the gates. A well-practiced maneuver, but doesn't always yield the desired results. Laying hands on a guard without cause usually results in some sort of reprimand, but he is too busy imagining the delight the gift will elicit from his daughter. Of course, Madame. Is this man with you? Rose nods to Hughes. Ah, yes. My adopted father, the one who has accompanied me on many a grand adventure. And as if to lend credence to her acclamations, Hughes lets out a long, sharp burp. I don't have a pass. That's fine, sir, the guard says. Even behind the helmet, she can see that his gaze has turned quizzical, questioning her claims as Hughes busies himself with picking his ear and gazing at the grazing wildlife some distance away. Nevertheless, the guard takes a form from the many sheets of paper and begins writing a pass for the tiefling in exchange for the 10 gold. Rose breathes a sigh of nostalgia, walking through the familiar streets that look smaller after every visit. She turns to Hughes. There's an old hole-in-the-wall inn that I used to frequent just up the road here. Let's get a room and ask if they can grab a cake for us. Hughes seems quite impartial to her suggestion. Sure. Is there a hole-in-the-wall bakery you know as well? Sadly not, Rose responds. If we want quality, the Carthan Cupcakes is still the best place to go for a good cake. I haven't explored much pastry business here. Would you prefer chocolate cake, vanilla and jam, or something else? Rose begins salivating at the options, continuing to walk onwards. But Hughes scoffs. Why do you even bother asking? A chocolate whore right here. Through and through. Rose responds to this. I figured as much. I'll order one to fit for 8 people to last us a few hours, let's be honest. That a girl, Hughes responds. As they begin to snake through the alleyways, Hughes scans his surrounding, seeming to cast a pass-without-a-trace spell to ease the travel. As they snake through the alleyways and glance around, nobody seems to take note of them, save for one person. His face is homely and indistinct and could melt into a crowd with ease, like candy floss in water. But by the time Rose meets eyes with him, he's already looked away, and has already forgotten what he looked like. Upon arriving at the inn, Rose prepares to empty her pockets again as she walks up to the receptionist. Good evening. A room for 2, 3 nights, please. The gnome receptionist eyes the two of them. Certainly. Would you and your... They attempt to try and gauge the relationship before giving up. Would you like the breakfast package to go with? Hughes' snap responds. Are there sprinkled donuts? The gnome responds. No, we don't offer those here. Hughes responds once again. Then I don't want it. The gnome pushes up her glasses. All right. That'll be 5 gold pieces for 3 nights for a couple's bedroom. Pushing over 2 well-worn sets of keys. Checkout is at 12 in the afternoon. Rose happily places the coin upon the table as she takes the keys. Additionally, how much would I have to add for someone to run out to Carthan Cupcakes and collect an 8-serving chocolate birthday cake? The gnome gives a passive glance. Apologies, miss, but we're slightly understaffed today. One of our members are off with the flu, so we're kind of doing double duty at the moment. Seems this was just a random hole in the wall, not some franchise. Rose sighs gently at this, not of frustration, just out of knowing she'll need to go outside again. And at this point, Hughes has already snatched the keys and is headed up towards the room. Rose would turn to Hughes. Yeah, I love you too, Dad. While attempting to be sneaky to avoid suspicion, but not overly so that people wonder who's sneaking around, Rose attempts to speed over to the bakery as quick as possible. Despite being away for a while, Rose does remember the road to the Carthan Cupcakes like the back of her hand. It takes Rose around 10 minutes to walk there, a quaint storefront with large glass windows. Even without the directions, the heavenly smell of butter would have her marching there like an ant to sugar. Rose walks past the window only to be cartoonishly yanked back to view the sugary art piece behind the window. Labelled as the ultimate expression of love for chocolate lovers, a double-layered cake complete with decadent chocolate ganache, moist sponge sandwich between whipped cream and garnished with delicate dark chocolate shavings dusted in white fairy sugar. It's enough to send a diabetic into a coma. And as much as most people aren't raring to have an entire cake by lunch hour, by the time she's reached the front of the cashier, the chocolate proof of heaven has remained undisturbed by the masses. Once able to be served, Rose turns, with a childish glee pointing at the cake with eyes the size of dinner plates. Hello, I need that. All of it. The full thing. The dwarf behind the counter looks with surprise. Oh my, a party? A wedding? It's 6 gold for the whole cake. We'll have it wrapped up for you in a second. And before more words can be spoken, the 6 gold is already placed upon the table. Once in her hands, Rose grins happily while holding the heft of the 3 days of recovery sleep she'll need after eating this. Her first desire is to run back to Hughes with her bounty, which is exactly what she does. The 10 to 15 minute jog later, Rose makes her way up to the room with the set of keys that Hughes thankfully had not grabbed as well. It's an ordeal to attempt to get the door open, but she manages. Once inside, Rose glances around. It's a perfectly serviceable room, if not small, though with more than enough amenities for a smaller business. The tiefling is smack dab in the middle of the bed, curled up in feline fashion, sleeping rather soundly. He could do that on most days, but right now he genuinely looked like he needed it. The excitement quickly fades as the soundly sleeping Hughes rests comfortably. As much as the cake would be an absolute blast to eat, it's better to enjoy it with Hughes. She looks at the cake pensively before setting it down, knowing full well that Hughes will want to enjoy it with her. However, it doesn't take long for the scent of chocolate to awake the tiefling. Turning to see Hughes wake up, she smiles softly. Hey big guy, I got one hell of a cake. Do you want to wait a little bit before eating, or are you good to go? It's clear Rose wants it, and she wants it now. Hughes's ears certainly perk up at that, though he spends a few seconds rubbing his eyes. Huh? Could have sworn you... Never mind. Smells like you got a hell of a cake. Did they harass you at the bakery? Get you to pipe your signature onto their heirloom croissants or something? Rose smiles. No, surprisingly not. I was in and out pretty quickly. You could have sworn? She does hang on to Hughes's cut-off thoughts slightly, curious to see if he was dreaming about something. Hughes nods, seemingly still sleepy from his nap. Looks like your notoriety doesn't reach as far as here, huh? Bet you could have gotten that cake for half price if you'd flaunted it a bit. Coming back an hour later, though. Well, let's see the goods. He props himself up, waiting for the cake. Rose decides it must have just been a dream and the cake is calling to her. She skips over with glee, turning dramatically and slow revealing the opening of the box for the chocolate cake within. Trog's tits, he responds, clearly gastronomically aroused. Look at the cake on that cake. Opening the box in front of this serial chocoholic is like peeling the lingerie off a premier escort. Rose smirks. And all it cost was 6 golds and probably 3 days in bed to recover. A fair trade, if I say so myself. Shall we get to work? Hughes springs up in the bed, eyes wide. Oh ho ho ho! That's an unsafe word if I've ever heard one, but before that, Sally and I got you a little something. While presenting a set of forks for them both, Rose perks up inquisitively. Oh, you shouldn't have. But then, her inner child kicks in. What is it? Hughes takes the opportunity to place a few candles on the cake. Where did he get them from? His pockets? The box? Who knows? First off, from Sal. He begins rummaging through his pockets. She actually meant to give you this last month, last year? A few years back? Kept slipping her mind, but since the tin can's officially shacked up, I guess it's the thought that counts. The tiefling takes out a small vial with a silver ribbon wrapped around with a big tag attached to it that says Gender Reassignment Potion, effective for 1 day, good for 1 use, consume entire vial, or weird things happen, wear protection, from Sally. Rose takes the vial. Wow, that's really interesting. A bit late given that you're mentioning Nephany, though I still don't think she'd be into it. I'm sure I'll still get a good day's use out of this regardless. She thinks for a second about asking Hughes for any suggestions for what to put a cock in, but reconsiders. She'll stay vanilla. Hughes laughs at this. Honestly, I wouldn't have wasted it on her anyway. Bet she's vanilla as fuck, even if you could smell the feral sex pest off her anyway. He continues, steering the conversation away without so much of a hint of discomfort as he pulls another thing out of his bag. This is from me. Gideon helped. It lands on the table with an unceremonious plop. Rose immediately recognizes it. It's the Hughes doll she lovingly slept with as a kid, made from hemp with buttoned eyes and stubby limbs. Rose smiles at this. Oh, you found my old embarrassing Hughes doll. Sorry, am I missing something? While a little awkward for her to relive, many more awkward things have been brushed over in his company, so nothing gets her all that red in the face anymore. But Hughes just smirks. Press it, he says. And so Rose does. And as she does, a small voice squeaks out from inside the doll, pre-recorded in its high-pitched glory. Hi, I'm Hughes. Go fuck yourself. There's a moment of curiosity and disbelief at the addition before she looks back to Hughes. How many lines does it have? That's really funny. Hughes shrugs, as if he didn't even know and just grabbed it off a retail aisle without looking. You could try asking it a few questions. Rose looks back down to the doll, thinking for a few seconds before speaking. Hey, Hughes doll, why is Hughes so thin? The doll whirs to life once more as she presses it. You wouldn't know what sexy was if it was staring at you with all 8 eyes, fucko. Hughes chuckles at this. It's a work in progress. Work in progress or not, Rose responds. I appreciate the hilarity it'll bring while you're off doing other things. Thanks. She peers down at the doll once more. Hughes doll, should we eat some cake now? Squeezing it to life once more. The Hughes doll responds. Stuff it in my asshole. This sentence seems to be like it could be more multi-purpose. Rose hands the cutlery to Hughes and prepares to dig in. That's good enough for me. Let's annihilate this cake. Hughes picks up a fork before pausing slightly to look at her. With a curvaceous chocolate babe like this, you don't need to tell me twice. But, not gonna make a wish? The fork heading towards the cake at near max speed stops dead in its tracks before Rhodes responds. Oh, right. She thinks to herself for a suitable wish. Does she wish she could have one night with Nephany before she's completely off the market? No, that's a selfish wish, and she's already expressed that she's not interested. Not that it matters. These wishes don't come true anyway. Gods, does she sometimes wish that she never had this chosen status, but that's a lot for her current situation. Eventually, she sighs, settling on something. You know what? I wish for some peace and quiet, she nods internally, blowing out the candle and smiling as she sticks the fork into the cake. Let's eat. Hughes nods with a knowing smirk as the candle smoke rises. I bet you wish for some fucking peace and quiet, huh? Wouldn't have been surprised if some goober knocked on the door right now to join your little party. And just as Rose is about to take her first bite of cake, Hughes speaks the harsh truth and she ends up biting down hard on her fork and sputters. What? Can you read our fucking minds now? Is that so wrong? She says defensively. There's another trademark Hughes laugh. Your thoughts were so loud, even a lobotomized patient could have heard them. He takes a huge scoop of cake and chomps it in one bite, moaning in ecstasy as he does so. Fucking hell, this is amazing. I'm getting 10 more of these. Rose grumbles slightly at being called out so clearly, almost enough to put her off the cake now that all she can taste is the metal from the fork through her teeth. But another bite she does take, unable to also help letting out a satisfied groan of her own. Setting her sights on overfilling herself with this cake, Rose goes full ape mode, taking forkful after forkful. Alongside her, Hughes is indulging himself with reckless abandon, and it's hard to tell where the tiefling begins and ends, neck deep in chocolate and cream and sponge as he is. But there is no denying that he is in taste bud heaven right now. The doll, pushed aside, barely escapes the fate of being splattered by stray crumbs and cream. When both of them have indulged themselves to the fullest, Hughes leans back in pure satisfaction, like a fat cat slumped over in slumber. I'm beat. I could marry that cake and have its babies. Really? Rose responds. I thought fucking a cake would be far too vanilla for you, at her own joke, but it hurts to laugh with how full she is. Her eyes turn to the bed. It's not good to sleep on a full stomach, but sleeping now would allow her to wait for more space for cake. However, before she throws herself into acid reflux hell, she turns to Hughes once again. I don't really want to go out for a bit, but is there anything you want to do while we're here, in this room or otherwise? He chuckles at this, but it sounds more like a momentary groan with how full he is. Short of falling into a sugar coma? Fuck it, I'd still go for that. That behemoth of a cake had me beat. He pauses as he wipes the sugary smear off his mouth, throwing a glance to the half-decimated cake sitting out in the open. Yeah, dibs on the shitter. I can feel Arse-mageddon coming down. You go for it, Rose responds. I'm gonna nap this off and we can go for round 2. She waves her hand dismissively as he lays claim to the bathroom. The bed is her goal, and it's free for planting a rose-shaped flag in. If we do want to do something after, we can. Mostly get another cake, she mutters under her breath. Hughes grins at this. You said my kink words right there. He turns around, looking at the bathroom, lingering for a while before turning back to Rose. This was not bad, he says with a rare air of authenticity and nostalgic longing. Like how we used to have these parties before it got overblown with castles and banquets and ass-kissers. Sinking into his nostalgia, Rose can't help but nod and agree. I don't think either of us had really signed up for a life of higher authority and world-shaping to the extent that we have done. What I wouldn't do to go back to the old days where we could just fuck around and hunt and fish with no expectations. He raises a quizzical eyebrow at this, smirking. Did you really not? Could have fooled me. What did I tell you? Fuck the rest. Sleep's the best. He ruffles her hair fondly in the way she could tell, even without words, that he does not begrudge her for the way that things have gone with the Sanctuary of Thorns. Unfortunately, though, the moment is interrupted by a notable gut growling in Hughes's general direction, and the way he pulls his hand away as if burnt by a stove. Nope, yep, it's peeking out. Gotta go, he says, shuffling hastily to the facilities. Rose leans into the hair fuss, but can't help but get a little sad. Hughes wanted a quiet life, but she felt a pull to do more, like it was a waste to have these things and not use them. Perhaps she had taken liberties at the reins and hadn't considered the others. It's a sad thought, but she lays her head and tries to get some rest before the stomach pains really start to hit. Rose takes her spot on the double bed and tries to lie in a way that feels the most comfortable in a full stomach, on propped-up pillows and plush sheets. Closing her eyes to the sound of Hughes letting out full biblical reckoning in the plumbing system is not exactly the most soporific ambience, but it is strangely calming. As if the burdens of her position meant nothing outside of this tiny bubble. Just her dad's bad decisions, and whatever you had for dinner that night. For a moment, as she dozes off, she can pretend this is how it was in the world. That would be the last pleasant thought she'd have, for a long time. There's a flutter of cloth in the air, a brief scent of daffodils, and the sudden feeling of a man's hand clamping her mouth shut. Her eyes flash open to see the glint of a dagger plunging into her body. He goes for the liver, abdomen, kidneys, chest, one side of the lungs. Wordlessly, searing pain racks her body as the sharpness blooms in her gut. Atop her is a changeling, a man of paper-white skin and hair wearing black leather armor. "Thought I should let you have your cake and eat it too first. Felt like bad form otherwise," he says. A food coma and now getting stabbed? This is the worst, Rose thinks to herself, attempting to catch the hand with the knife while attempting to scream into the hand for help. If only she didn't use her one daily heal spell on Hughes when he choked on that pretzel this morning. Adrenaline kicks in as she screeches into his palm, chest inflating as she breathes hastily, which only sends sharp shocks of pain into her impacted chest. His arm barely budges, but restraining anybody, much less a woman of her capabilities, does have him struggle to put her into a permanent nap, which renders the slightest hint of surprise in his placid, white face. Her screaming at least does send Hughes fumbling out of the bathroom with his trousers down, opening the door with his hand still on his gut. The moment he sees the man on top of her, however, his eyes widen, and he dives, throwing a knife directly at the assailant. The knife does find purchase in his shoulder, causing the changeling to groan in pain. This does get his dagger hand free, as well as the dagger, which slips out of her as sharply as it went in, and with one fluid motion, the dagger slices through the air and lodges itself into flesh and bone. It's hard to see what happened from Rose's position, but she hears the hiss of a pierced lung and the gasping for air, and the telltale sound of a thump of a body hitting the floor. Beyond the blood blooming in her blue dress, there is a red tiefling, barely in her peripherals, struggling to get up. "One foot already in the grave," he says, shaking his head. "Should have just stayed put." Hearing Hughes get hit in this remark, Rose attempts to go on the offensive, instead wrapping her hands around his throat and trying to use her innate flying ability to try and pin him onto the ceiling. However, this proves ineffective between the blood loss, the pain, and the flying. Rose exerts herself to a degree that only someone of her power could, but it's no use. Even putting aside the fact this man is a few weight classes above her, her pushing and puffing only seems to expedite her exsanguination. Her hands do wrap around his thick throat, and she squeezes with all her might, but the veins of struggle popping in his forehead are nothing compared to what she is feeling. Below her, Hughes is still gasping for air, clutching at his torn open wound. She could practically hear the jokes that might have come otherwise, something about dying a rock star's death on the loo, going out in a literal shitstorm, or something to that degree. But all he does is stare at her with heavy-lidded eyes, and all there is abject horror. Rose reaches to him in desperation. There's only one thing she can think of now, and that's to use gravity to her advantage. Spinning around to try and put herself above the assailant, hoping that he'll drop to the floor, she attempts to reach for the bag of holding, but he's too large and is unable to get free. For a moment, he removes his hands from her struggling body, allowing her a scant second to flail as much as she can. However, again, it's not possible for her to move someone that size off of her, especially in the throes of death. Within a moment, those arms are now pinning hers down again, away from his throat and onto the bed. If this was a more erotic context, in another time, another place, with less knives, it might have been preferable. All he seems to be doing now is waiting for her to stop resisting. And in a last-ditch effort, she attempts to kick him in the balls, letting out a muffled "Why?" as she begins going cold, vision fading. Her flailing leg lands square and true as he folds momentarily with a grunt as the air is knocked out of him. Adrenaline is a hell of a drug, however, and he raises his head to meet her eyes. Feisty for a woman on death's doorstep, he mutters. No, for orders chosen. I am you, on the other side of the coin. These words don't reach her ears, though, only a grasp at the last strings of life. Rose attempts to reach out and thumb his eyes, but her strength is gone. As she reaches up, his hand grasps her wrist, more gently than his previous shows of restraint. You will not die here. His pupilless eyes were always on her, but now they feel especially piercing. Your father will, but you will not follow. You are required, still, on the golden path. Given some room to speak, though her body is failing, Rose forces out some words, her drained eyes making sure to remember every inch of the figure. If you don't kill me here, and you kill him, I will dedicate my life to skinning you alive. She traces his face, his jaw, his eyes, the blue streaks running down his face, and an expression that doesn't seem to budge at her words. He speaks in a voice heavy as stone. You cannot kill me. I cannot kill you. That is the pact forged by those above for their chosen by order and by chaos. And you are not ordained to die here. The message is received. Rose hears this loud and clear, but all she cared about is Hugh's. So why? Why do this? From his pockets, he takes out a vellum scroll wrapped around some herbs, because this was the only way. He begins to chant an incantation, and as Rose's vision goes dark, he says, Good night, orders chosen. Her vision swims as the spell takes, as she sinks into a slumber. His voice is nothing but echoes now. The new world awaits you. Rose can only respond, You cryptic bitch, and succumbs to whatever seems to be coming her way, much to her displeasure. And just like that, silence. Her wounds fade, so does her breath. Sleep takes her in its embrace, for as long as it needs to.